Welcome to the next edition of Mariners Talk by the Rooftop Sports. This is Rooftop Sports myself, and joined by, we got the Jay Trident podcast. And Jay Trident, how are you doing, or how has it been?
I'm doing well, doing well. We actually have a move to talk about too, which is nice. It's been a while since we've had to cling to Donovan Solano the entire offseason. So we got some stuff to talk about, but I'm doing well. Appreciate it, my friend. Thank you.
Oh, yes, the Jorge Polanco move. I remember, like, throughout this entire day, luckily I had a day off from Don't Quit Your Day Job for the most part. But while I was going for a walk, I was listening to podcasts, I was reading articles on preparing for this whole T-Mobile Park thing that is also a hot button issue. And I really needed 2 days to digest and get all the information, because I did get into it with some Mariners fans about the whole T-Mobile Park issue. So I took a step back and go, okay, maybe I definitely need those 2 days to do research. And then you texted me going, Jorge Polanco to the Mariners. And I'm like, okay, well, now he is first in priority. And on this day, almost on this day, it was about 366 days ago, we were just talking about Jorge Polanco being traded to the Mariners, where it cost Justin Topa as one of the players that I remember. And now here we are. Jorge Polanco is back on the Mariners, expected to play third base. But before we get into Jorge Polanco, there had seemed to be some kind of, I don't know, some kind of rah-rah going on in the Mariners Twitter community, where this one random guy named Zach left. Let's see what exactly he did. Oh, yes, he generated some kind of just lunch table, and I wonder if I can make it any bigger. I think I just did. Yeah, so look at that lunch table that we've got. It's full of a lot of Mariners community people. We got our friend Jake over there of Raise the Trident. We've got Mariners Muse. We got that. Who's that other guy? I forgot his name already. We got Ryan Divish, Adam Jude, Marine Layer Podcast, Angie Mentick. We got one of the members of the Locked On Mariners, Colton. I don't know.
Colby.
Colby?
Yeah, it's Colby.
That's Colby.
Yeah.
That's right. And we got Joe Doyle and Dave Softy Mahler. So there's a lot of prominent people. Surprisingly, Mariners Mojo wasn't there, but they said in their podcast that they're likely cooking lunch and making lunch for everyone. And they said that they may have ate all of it. And they did admit that. So that's possible. And there is someone on table 7 that will probably draw some kind of attention. I'll let you be the judgment of what that is. I have no idea how that person is, but I noticed that I'm not there. And I think what's possible, I think I got sent to the principal's office for my erratic behavior on this whole T-Mobile Park thing. So I guess that our friend Luke, I guess maybe he's the teacher. I forgot his name already, but he's well connected with the Mariners community. I have this article pulled up. What's his name? Luke Arkins. If you've seen him in the Twitter community, he sent me to the principal's office for being crazy about this whole, blaming T-Mobile Park as an excuse. And we just went back and forth. So he was like, to the principal's office, and I got lunch detention. So where do you think you are, Jay Trident Podcast?
I think I must go to a different school. I'm just at a different school. That's okay. I'm in Arizona, so I do go to a different school. No, I have to. I don't know everybody in that picture, but there's definitely some fun people there. A lot of good people. Funny, good takes. So, there's a lot of good options there. Table 2 is a good one there. You got Jake, and I can't see I think it's Ben Ranieri's up there. That's a good table. Number 5, Softy's a character. I don't think go wrong sitting hanging out with Softy for a little bit. He's got that great voice that just resonates when he talks. It's a great group of people in there. So you can't go wrong at any of those tables, in my opinion.
Oh, there's also Mr. Gonzalez. Ty Dane Gonzalez is also there somehow.
Oh yeah, he's over there. Yep.
He's not sitting with Kobe. I guess they just needed time from each other.
Yeah, you gotta mix it up a little bit. So, like I said, I don't know everybody, just by the pictures. If I saw the tweets, I'd probably know it a little bit. But great group of people there for sure.
Great community. And before we head to the next topic, I noticed that there's an empty table. I would say dibs on that one. That one's mine. Yeah. But if I had a choice of who to talk to, I think I'd go to Joe Doyle and I'd probably just ask him 50 questions about the prospects that he would talk about. Definitely Dave Softy Mahler. Get him. I would probably get him fired up. Say one little thing, and he'll go kaboom. I'll be like, "Hey, Marine Layer Podcast, you're consistent podcasting, more consistent than I do. I commend you." Adam Jude for at least releasing the numbers of the $16 million, and maybe I'll ask Jen Mueller if I could have some food like she does with the Mariners players. If you've seen that on her YouTube channel, I'll ask for, I don't know, ask for some food. I don't know. But I would say number 5, 3. I'll say hello to number 8 for a little bit, and I'll go to Angie Mentic, say, "Hey, I actually met you before. This was in 2011. I was actually the cashier when she was buying something at a job, so I'll be like, nice to catch up, and obviously she won't remember me."
You never know. You never know.
Never know. But now, let's talk about the Jorge Polanco move. And that's something that you texted me. I think it was like an hour before the show was going to happen. And I did see your 9-minute thing. It's probably about what I'm going to say. So, yes, according to Ken Rosenthal, it looks like he was one of the first to actually break out the news that the Mariners did sign Jorge Polanco to a 1-year, around $7 million, could be up to 11 depending on incentives. But if he makes $11 million, that's actually a good thing because that means he actually performed and hopefully did better than 2024. But man, $7 million for 1 year. I thought it was going to be like 5 or 6, to be honest, because of considering the injury problems he had last year and the fact that he struggled most of last season. But he did get the $7 million. It does cut that alleged budget in half. But he is going to play third base that the Mariners are going to say. So at least it's in principle, yes, it's an upgrade, but most of us are going to say, man, we could have gotten better. Mariners could have gotten Alex Bregman or should have, but of course that's not going to happen. It just will not happen, unfortunately, as much as I really wanted it to happen. But if you had a choice between Dylan Moore at third base and Jorge Polanco at third base, I think you would go with Jorge Polanco, at least on a batter's perspective. So Jay, try and take me your thoughts on the Jorge Polanco signing.
Yeah, I think pretty much what you said. I'm with you. I thought it'd be a little cheaper than like 7.75 million. I'm with you on the incentives. I don't care too much about that stuff because it's like, if you hit the incentives, then great. I mean, it's like, oh, if you bat this average and hit this many home runs, so it's like, okay, well, you're helping the team win at that point. But it is late enough into the offseason that I'm not as worried about the remaining budget. I mean, they have like 4 or 5 million left. If it was 5 million, they'd have 6 or 7. I don't know if that's going to be the difference between another move and not. You know what I mean? So I'm not too worked up about the money. Listen, you could just go simple and go, hey, I think the Mariners are better today than they were yesterday. That would be completely fair. If, I could have made a 10-second video, said that could be it. I think they are. I think Polanco does help them, but it's hard not to be a little bit underwhelmed. I mean, the guy was on the team last year, so it's not like it's oh man, we went out and got another guy. It's somebody coming back to the team. It's somebody that was, quite frankly, not good last year. He did have a nice second half, 114 WRC plus. He essentially cut his K rate almost in half. So that's a nice, maybe there's something to it. There's the injury talk and everything. So, it could be totally fine. There's definitely scenarios where, Polanco's the guy we thought we were getting last season, but it's hard for me to hype fans up about a guy that was a Mariner last year and wasn't very good and going, hey, Jorge Polanco. But to your point, like, I think it kind of got to the point in the offseason, you couldn't do nothing, right? I mean, your third base was likely Dylan Moore platooning with Austin Shenton, and second base was Ryan Bliss, or third base was Solano, and second base was Moore and Bliss. So you couldn't roll that out opening day. You just can't. Like, that's bad. Polanco at least gives you someone that's been a productive major league hitter, that has a track record, except for last year, of being a solid hitter. So again, like, I never want to come on these things and sound like I'm telling fans like, oh yeah, Jorge Polanco, you should be so excited. But I kind of use the analogy in my videos, probably a terrible analogy, but like, if you're starving and a McDonald's cheeseburger sitting there that's been sitting there for 45 minutes, it's kind of nasty. It's a little cold, but you got to eat. It's better than not eating. And I don't want to say, I'm not trying to be that negative on Polanco, but like, you had to get better, and I do think he's better. It doesn't mean I approve this offseason, still like a D- F to me, F. So it doesn't change really how I feel about the offseason. So, it's fine. I think they're better today than they were yesterday.
I mean, yeah, they couldn't. I mean, imagine going into the everyday season with Dylan Moore as your third baseman, and this is exactly how I would feel if Dylan Moore was the starter for third base. That's exactly how I would feel. At least now you can say that maybe they'll do some kind of platooning between Dylan Moore and Jorge Polanco at third base, and then second base is going to be, I guess it's going to be in between of like Ryan Bliss and or Jorge Polanco for the second base. And also don't forget, I say Jorge Polanco, I meant Cole Young. You're looking at Cole Young, maybe if he even makes it to the team. But I think with the guys that they have in the infield with all those veterans, I think it's going to be more like Donovan Solano and or Ryan Bliss. But who knows? Like, that's why spring training is going to be a whole nother thing to look forward to. And I do think the most attention that should be given is not only the prospects that are going to be invited to spring ball, which we'll be talking about after the Jorge Polanco part of the segment, but also seeing who can fill that infield spot. Like, we all know that Jorge Polanco is probably going to start third base. Now the question is who's going to be mostly at second base, which is projected to be more like Donovan Solano and or Ryan Bliss. I mean, I can't really see Donovan Solano as an everyday guy. I would. That's why I think Ryan Bliss or Dylan Moore. Dylan Moore is just going to be flying around between third base and second base like almost every day. So you can technically say that he could be an everyday player. But here are some positives. I know we've kind of already said all the negative stuff about Jorge Polanco, but some things to maybe keep everyone from being negative. Like, obviously, I feel very negative about this because I'm like, man, we could have done better. Should have gone for Hae-Sung Kim. Now I'm saying like an American, Hae-Sung Kim and Ha-Sung Kim. We could have gotten, which by the way went to the Rays. It looks like could have gotten anyone. Could have went for Bregman, but with Polanco, at least in the second half, he had a WRC plus of, I believe it was 114. Correct me if I'm wrong. He did bat 230 compared to 197, 309 OBP. At least the slugging almost doubled. It went from 282 to 431, 11 home runs and 27 RBIs. And I guess at least for when Dan Wilson took over, at least he batted over 220. I know that's not saying much at all, but at least the other thing to look forward to is how much can Kevin Seitzer and Edgar Martinez make an impact for Jorge Polanco? That is like, I think that's the most burning question out of all for the offseason is other than are the Mariners going to make any of these kind of moves, but how much of an impact can Edgar Martinez and Kevin Seitzer make? Because when we did see notable improvements when Dan Wilson and Edgar Martinez took over, because it was certainly, I have to say, it was an upgrade over Scott Service and that, what was it, Brett Brown or Brant Brown, offensive coordinator. That's how forgettable he is. The fact
the
that
the OC.
I was like, what is this, football?
He was the well, I was going to say Ryan Grubb, but the Clint Kubiak now of the Mariners. Yeah, I mean, and Polanco's a switch hitter, so that gives him some ability to not have to be platooned. I think he's actually been a better career hitter from the right side, if I'm not mistaken. The numbers you pointed out, all improvements in the second half. So, like, I never, me, we've done these shows together for a while. Like, I will never just completely dismiss, somebody, because like there is a scenario where Jorge Polanco, we look back, go, that was a good re-signing. Like, he bounced back, he was healthy, and it worked out. There is definitely a scenario where it absolutely works out and you get that player you were expecting to get last season. So I never want to just bash it and say there's no shot. It's just kind of like, it's there. It happened. I'm not like overwhelmed with joy. I'm not mad. It's just kind of, it's a move and it can help. I'm not going to tell you to scream from the rafters for it. And, I don't have a problem with him going to third base. I think that's fine. I usually trust them and Perry Hill on those things. They tend to do a pretty good job with that stuff. And he's played third base before, so I think that can work out just fine. So it's a move. It's a move that doesn't move the needle a ton for me, but they had to get better. You couldn't roll out, Austin Shenton, Ryan Bliss, and I love Dylan Moore, but his best role is that super utility where he can bat against lefties and he can play everywhere, not as like a lockdown. He's your second or third baseman type guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you talked about that he's a better right-handed hitter, it's actually proven. He is a 250 hitter, at least for last season. And when he was a lefty, he was like below 200 there. So at least the right side, at least we expect him to play, I guess, a little bit better. And now I do want to look at exactly where, actually, before I do that, I did look up his defensive numbers for third base. It's not very good. Like when I looked at his defense in years he played for third base, in 2016 as a Minnesota Twin, he committed 3 errors in 9 games, 864 fielding percentage. And then in 23, in 11 games that he started, 15 games played, 1 error, so I guess a little bit better, but a 963. So the concern I do have, though, for the infield going forward is the defense for infield seems very underwhelming. Like your best defensive player might be J.P. Crawford and Dylan Moore, and that is something that's not something to be excited about. Like Luke Raley, I mean, first base, you need some kind of at least an average first baseman, in my opinion. I could be wrong on that, but he certainly doesn't have the defense that Ty France have. Donovan Solano, his defense is also kind of like meh. At least on second base, can't be worse than third base. J.P. Crawford, like he is a solid defensive shortstop at least, but Jorge Polanco at third base, those errors, and even at second base, he kind of didn't look great. So that is a concern I have, which is why maybe for some defensive purposes, they're going to bring in Dylan Moore. I still think he's going to get a lot of action because of the lack of defensive personnel the Mariners have on infield. So that, I mean, even if their bats, like let's say, even if all of them play very well offensively, the defense cannot be ignored. Like defensive concerns still might actually be a thing. Like Mariners starting rotation in the bullpen can only do so much, and T-Mobile Park, which we're about to talk about as well, can only do so much to prevent the hitters from doing anything. Because also you have to consider another 81 games on the road where the Mariners are a completely different team than they are at home. So I would have loved to see the Mariners get like Alex Bregman, Ha-Seong Kim, or anyone that spells the word defense in there, because those would have been great additions. But of course, we have to talk about the show based on the fact that the Mariners have a very minuscule budget, and I don't think that any of us are even worth $1 billion combined, so we can't really buy the team to run it differently, unfortunately. So unfortunately, like, it is pretty sad though that we're stooping down to the level of saying, okay, fine, we are fine. Jorge Polanco, fine, we'll take it. That's how far it's gotten.
That's not what it is.
That we're stooping down to that level. I think I even tweeted that before. Is like I'm sad that we may have to stoop down to that level. And just for craps and giggles, let's go sign Ty France too. Let's just do that.
Yeah, you brought up a good point with that infield defense. It is a little suspect. Maybe they do sign a Jose Iglesias for second base because he's a plus defender. He's obviously on the older side, but he's always been a really good glove. JP did have a better defensive year last year than he did the previous year, so maybe there's something there. But yeah, you're right. Polanco, I'm hoping at third, maybe see some improvements, and then Perry Hills can have his work cut out for him. That's I guess all I'll say about that.
But yeah, Perry Hill, I remember you brought it up on your show that his defense, that he is good at least teaching the guys how to play some defense. So maybe there's hope there. And the other hope that I still have for this team, and I know this sounds a long shot to say, but still got Edgar Martinez, Dan Wilson, and Kevin Seitzer in their full seasons. Like, I'm really curious how much of an impact that actually could be, because even though your offensive personnel that may not be the best, sometimes you can coach your way out of it. Like, look at Lou Piniella. Now, I know 2001 was It was a very extreme example, but he did help Brett Boone go from a 19 home run hitter to a 37 home run hitter. Now, whether you want to say it was steroids or not, the bottom line is you still got to hit the dang ball. How about when he at least coached Ichiro in some aspects? Like, yeah, sure, Ichiro was going to be great because he's Ichiro, but maybe Lou Piniella said one or two things to give him some advice. What about Mike Cameron? He was not really expected to really fill the entire shoes of Ken Griffey Jr. Now, he didn't, obviously, but he did what he could, and it was still very useful. He coached David Bell to be a regular third baseman. So, yes, I know that 2001 is very extreme example, but you can still, if you have good coaching, then maybe your crappy hitters could at least be your average hitters, and maybe the average hitters could be slightly above average, like telling them when to bunt, like don't try to kill the ball. Like, remember when we see Julio Rodriguez, the way he swings at it, he looks like he just wants to hit that ball all the way to the moon. And we're like, Julio, you just have to get the guy from third base to home. You don't have to necessarily hit a home run. So there's that.
Yep.
So it's going to be about how you coach them, try to get them to lower the chase rate, because look at Mitch Garver. His chase rate is like, yikes. So now that I got that out of the way, want to go over what the state of the lineup could be. So catcher Cal Raleigh and Mitch Garver. I'll live with it, obviously. I mean, it's Cal Raleigh, and Mitch Garver is a backup catcher, at least with less pressure. Maybe he'll embrace more of that Tom Murphy role, because remember, Tom Murphy was actually the most efficient player on the 2023 team for the offense. And then the injury killed him, unfortunately. Luke Raley, first base, and maybe you got Tyler Locklear, or do the Mariners sign Ty France? I don't know, but still think there's room for improvement on first base. Second base, Donovan Solano is now the guy, unless Ryan Bliss can also play to relieve him, or does Cole Young get called up? I don't know. So there's still question marks, in my opinion, for second base. Shortstop, JP Crawford, I'm not really a fan of JP as much as I used to. Unless we can get 2023 JP Crawford or 21 JP, then fine. And then Jorge Polanco, that defense, I don't know. Randy Arozarena, Julio Rodriguez, and Victor Robles. Obviously, you're not going to really replace them, except maybe Victor Robles if he doesn't pan out. But we can all agree that most of the attention of concern does belong to the infield, because all of those will be suspect. But if Luke Raley repeats what he does last year, if Solano does exactly what he did last year, if JP can somewhat get his 2023 magic back, and if Jorge Polanco can get maybe at least second half Jorge Polanco, then maybe this offense could be maybe a 22-15 at home, and then maybe a 15-10 on the road, as long as Edgar Martinez and Kevin Seitzer can guide this team.
Yeah, I think actually you're probably, my guess would be, I agree, Cal, Garver, catcher. I think probably right now it's actually Raley and Solano platooning at first base would actually be my gut right now, and then kind of rotating DH a little bit between Haniger, Garver, and whoever else needs a day off. I think second base is probably Dylan Moore still right now. I mean, he probably is the best option on the roster at second, unless they, like I said, think Cole Young's ready. And then the rest is obviously, we're in agreement on around the diamonds. So, there's definitely some possibilities if Garver can bounce back that he could slide into that DH role. And I do think Garver actually will have a better season. I actually feel pretty confident in that. He did hit lefties well last year, and I think if he can bounce back against righties, I have zero hope for Mitch Haniger. I'm not going to lie. I have no idea how they're going to do that with him on the roster. And I feel terrible because I love me some Mitch Haniger. I have no idea. I guess maybe if Robles is bad, Haniger could go to right field. And I even think a bad Robles is probably better, because at least you're getting defense and better base running. I mean, you talk about the infield defense, and then imagine Haniger in right field. So I don't know what they're doing there, but I think that's the lineup, and hopefully one more move. I think
at least one more move to solidify something. What's it going to be? I don't know, but based on the free agency, like you said, Iglesias is still around, but I don't know if are you willing to add another old guy? And maybe like Nico Horner could be in play, whether, like, let's say the Cubs sign Alex Bregman. Could that make Nico Horner a trade possibility? I don't know. So we'll have to see, but at least we can say at least the Mariners are not starting Dylan Moore every single day at third base. So at least we can be relieved on that. But now I want to get into the next part of the show. This is probably going to be a very quick part of it, but spring ball invites has been announced for spring training baseball. And that's something I'm really excited about. And there are players too that will be at least players that I'll be looking forward to. We got Michael Arroyo is a notable. He started playing in Everett. Cole Emerson, I believe, just also started playing in Everett. Then we got Cole Young, who is probably the most MLB ready player. I don't think he's going to get the starting role, but it will be great to see him getting some more playing time this time around. Then we got my favorite one, Lazaro Montez. He's going to be the outfield guy. Don't think he's going to get ready for Major League Baseball, of course, because he's just in A+ Everett. Then you got the notable Harry Ford, who played some little bit of outfield last season to see if he could be a trade piece, but he's the catcher. And then looking at pitchers, we got Logan Evans as the most notable, and Samad Taylor's still around. But if anyone's got any players that they're interested in talking about, put it in the comments in this video to see which one it is. But the one that sticks out the most are Cole Emerson, Cole Young, Harry Ford, Logan Evans, and Lazaro Montez. And any of the players, in your opinion, that you are looking forward to the most?
I'm excited to see Laz, honestly. Just it's just for the bombs and the frame and everything. Like, I can't wait to go see him in person, to be perfectly honest. Really excited for did you say Cole Young? Sorry.
Cole Young.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm at brain fart moment. Just because, like, I mean, he was great last spring. We kind of talked about, like, hey, is Cole Young someone that could, do something this year for the team? Like, and now there is a legitimate shot, right? Like, Cole Young could be the opening day second baseman. It's not completely out of the realm of possibility that happens. So, especially remember Julio in 22, right? 2022. It was not known going into spring training that Julio would win the job and be the center fielder for the Mariners. That kind of came through spring training and everything. So, if Cole Young can have a big spring, he might be, I don't think he's going to be Julio level type player, but he could be kind of this year's Julio. And, listen, as far as I feel like I've been kind of a Debbie Downer, but as far as optimism, like, if Cole Young turns out to be that legit prospect and gives you a solid bat, in the middle of the infield, it does change a little bit of the look of this team. Then you kind of go, okay, we got Julio, Cal, Cole Young. We're strong up the middle on offense, and then you've got some other role players there to help out. So definitely Cole Young. Laz, just for how fun of a player he is. Arroyo, obviously, is cool to see on there. And then, some other good prospects there too. Like I said, I'm not a prospect guru by any means, but definitely some exciting names to see. I think Cole Young's probably the most, like, impactful one, just because I do think there's a shot he is your opening day second baseman.
I would say Cole Young, and maybe the sleeper could be Harry Ford because he's in Arkansas, but maybe because typically for catchers tend to stay longer in minor leagues just because they just need development as a catcher, and for hitting, because Harry Ford still strikes out quite a bit, as I did look at his numbers. But Cole Young, he does strike out a lot too, but he makes it up with a lot of walks. So that's what I'm excited to. And he's got speed and can steal bases. So I'm really rooting for Cole Young. Like, if we can, like you said, if Cole Young can be called up, like on opening day, does the same thing Julio did, maybe not exactly the same, but maybe like just a tier below it, but it's enough for him to get to the opening day roster, then it will be exciting to see what can happen. And considering, that the lineup is pretty underwhelming, but at least with Donovan Solano in there, Dylan Moore still there, and Ryan Bliss, at least it gives, I would say, a little bit less pressure for Cole Young for the need to perform immediately. At least they're not going to exactly expect him to be like the driving force. Like, I think, remember opening day, Julio wasn't even expected to be the driving force of the offense. The expectations was still like Mitch Haniger and like Jared Kelnick were expected to be the big guys, and JP Crawford. So even if Cole Young gets the call up, at least he will have not as much pressure. And arguably, I think he has less pressure because at least the core players still have Randy Arozarena and Julio and Cal Raleigh as the core players on the offense. So at least Cole Young doesn't have to necessarily carry the team. So, and Cole Young's not really a home run hitter anyway. So that's the other advantage that may be. So that's what I'm looking forward to. But before we get into showing my SeatGeek ad, I do have a highlight moment with Michael Arroyo, who was on that invitee list where I was partially part of his first home run when he debuted in Everett, or at least it was his first home run. But here it is.
Changes unannounced by the Spokane Indians. 1-0 pitch, swinging a high fly ball right field, deep down the line, into the corner. It is gone.
I was the idiot that slipped and fell. Word of advice for fielders trying to catch a fly ball: never take one step in. When in doubt, take one step back. Yeah, and for someone that plays outfield regularly for one of my softball teams, yeah, that somehow I forgot, but it was like that adrenaline. I was like, oh my God, the ball's coming my way. So I was just running, like diving forward. And the funnier part was there was like 3 people at the wall. One of them was my cameraman, and I didn't tell him to film because I was like, it's all about Las Montez, because I was giving all the attention to him, but I wasn't expecting like Michael Arroyo, out of all people, to hit a home run to my direction. And of course, the one time he doesn't film it because I told him not to, I could have put that all together. Like, oh, there's an actual footage of me doing it. Maybe there could have been some viral opportunities. I don't know, but at least you saw a highlight of me showing my athletic ability of falling.
Did the person that got the ball give it back, or did they keep it?
Oh, of course they absolutely kept it. I don't know.
Yeah,
actually, that's a good question. I don't know. There was no word on that.
If you would have caught it, what if Michael Arroyo becomes like the greatest baseball player ever? Like, what if he just goes on to be, you never know. You never know. And you had a chance to catch his, imagine like in 75 years, like Michael Arroyo is locked Hall of Famer, like Ty Cobb status, and you had a chance to catch the first home run he ever hit as a professional player in the minor leagues. Like, imagine if I had a ball of like Ty Cobb or Babe Ruth's first ever home run that they hit. You could have had
it. could have had it, but at least I have it on record that I was part of screwing it up, at least. So at least
you are part of history. So no matter what, you could be legend status for that regardless. I don't think Michael Arroyo will become the greatest baseball player ever, but you never know. You never know.
Well, and regarding the first home run as a professional, technically it goes all the way to 2022 when he was in the Dominican Republic in the rookie years. He hit a home run at the age of 17. Okay. So kind of a bit off, but hey, first home run in A+ ball is something.
Right. Okay. I didn't really. Okay. I thought that was like his first. Okay. That makes sense.
Nah, you're good. But now we got to get into the next segment, but give me about 30 seconds to breathe, because this is the T-Mobile thing is a very touching subject. But until then, enjoy the ad where it shows me falling down. SeatGeek is a mobile ticketing app for sporting events, concerts, and other events. They make the buying experience easier by the app ranking each ticket from 0 to 10 to see if you are getting a good deal, and you can see exactly where you are sitting. I regularly use that app, and I have had nothing but a fantastic experience with SeatGeek. Use my promo code RoofTopSports to get $20 off of your first purchase. Link to the code, app, and website will be in the description, so take advantage, and thank you. Well, now that's the second video shown of me slipping and falling in the same location.
That's right. Same spot. There you go. That's your corner right there.
I think that Everett Stadium and I have like a very interesting relationship, which is why I am 100% going to miss that stadium, because Everett is building a new one downtown and I'm not happy about it. But hey, if they felt the need to build a stadium, fine, whatever. But I don't know. But now it is time for T-Mobile Park, and it has been actually one of the more polarizing topics throughout this entire offseason. The fact that the T-Mobile issue has been the most hot button topic in the entire offseason of the Mariners really says it all of how slow it really was. But it was around Monday where Luke Arkins, if I even said his name right. Yes, Luke Arkins. He put out an article about the whole T-Mobile Park thing. And not only was it him, it was also Mike. I can't even say his name. I'm just gonna pronounce it. Mike Petrelio. He wrote a huge article, and it was actually a well-written article. When I first saw this article and the title, I was like, oh, great. My conspiracy was, oh, John Stanton paid this guy to victimize the Mariners about T-Mobile Park. But I took the time to read it because considering my exchange with Luke Arkins, when I was basically saying, well, the Mariners, when the game's at home, and it kind of just went back and forth. So that kind of forced me to just read all these articles. But Mike came up with some really good points where there's the whole, well, basically, it was talking about that the Mariners, or basically just the offense in general, have difficulties in playing at T-Mobile Park. It is actually rated the worst stadium for offense in all of Major League Baseball. The numbers were shown out that there were splits. They were showing some notable splits, like Alex Rodriguez. His OPS was below 1,000 in this 2000 season with the Mariners, and of course well above 1,000 or above 1,000 in the OPS when he's not at Safeco Field / T-Mobile Park. And then they were saying a lot of things like the Mariners offense was the worst in baseball at home, but then when they're on the road, they're about 22nd in the league, which is still not great at all. So basically the article was pointing him out some things, but I think the most interesting part, and the part that I actually do agree with, is there is the glaring sunlight that happens from 4 p.m. to the end of 7 p.m. And the most interesting part of it is at 6:40 is usually when the games begin, which I have always been against that because, one, I sometimes get off work at 6 o'clock, so that does not give me enough time to get home in time, set up my camera to cover these Mariners games at 6:40. I'd rather do 7:10. I know you're the 6:40 guy because you're in Arizona and you just value that one extra hour or maybe that extra 30 minutes worth of sleep, which I don't blame you at all. But I guess they were also saying the sun glaring stuff does not help, and of course the fence dimensions doesn't help either. And of course, Washington's erratic weather patterns also doesn't help. And of course, all the numbers are backing it up where Mariners offense is this, their batting average is lower. Some prominent players don't play as well. Or like Dylan Moore, he hates T-Mobile Park to the core. And basically, another thing that was notable where Cal Raleigh nearly hit the home run. That should have been like the game winner against the Detroit Tigers, and it was caught by that center fielder. I think I even covered that live, and when I saw that catch, I was like, holy crap, he made it. And that's where the whole marine layer became such a thing. And as great as the article was, because I'm sure this guy spent so much time with the article, there was one missing statistic in that article about T-Mobile Park that did actually work for the Mariners. Would you like to guess what that was?
The pitching, right? The pitching, bullpen. Yeah, the
pitching.
pitching.
No, actually they pointed out the pitching with Andres Munoz. Like, he pitches a lot better at home than he does on the road. But the record that was missed the most was the home record. And let me double check to make sure so I don't look like a slanderer kind of guy. And yeah, I didn't really see much about how they do at home. And it's not like, and when I read this article, it was well written. It's not like the guy was trying to say, oh, T-Mobile Park is to blame for the Mariners stinking the hole or anything like that. It was just, I guess he just happened to write a really good written article about all the issues the Mariners may have playing at home. But the one thing that the Mariners do well at T-Mobile Park is they win their games because it's backed by the most talented starting rotation in all of baseball. You got a good bullpen if it's not injured. Although I do think the Mariners should still find a closer over Andres Munoz, because if you look at his splits on the road, he cannot close a game on the road. So I don't trust him on that. But aside from that, they do win their games at home. So it's really about, in my opinion, the way I see it, not everything's going to go your way. Yeah, T-Mobile Park is an absolutely a difficult stadium to play, but it's also about what personnel you do have, who is managing the team, and can they find ways to lead the team through these adverse kind of conditions, which is T-Mobile Park, rather than having fans go, "Oh, yeah, T-Mobile Park is the absolute problem. It's the reason we suck and we don't miss the playoffs." I mean, wouldn't that be crazy if T-Mobile Park was the reason why Mariners have missed the playoffs for the last 20 years? Let's just do that. Well, other than 22, let's just do that rather than, like, hold the ownership accountable for not bringing in the right players to withstand against T-Mobile Park, because there are players that have played very well. We've seen Robinson Cano, Edgar Martinez, Brett Boone, Alex Rodriguez, even 99 Ken Griffey Jr. still, at least he didn't hit below 40 home runs in total. And what about Mike Cameron had his moments in Safeco Field / T-Mobile Park? Robinson Cano, Julio Rodriguez thrived in his rookie year. Now, yes, you can say that they bat slightly worse or they bat worse than they do at home, but the point is, the way I'm approaching all of this is the best solution to it is have the right personnel, have the right coaches. It's about who can coach through it rather than the other solution I guess people would come up with. Let's just build a dome, or let's bring the fences in even more, as if the Mariners already did that in 2013 and it still didn't really fix the problem very well. And regards to building a new stadium, which Marine Layer did joke about, like, oh yeah, let's put up some walls on left field and while we close the roof. But the thing is, like, in case many people may not remember, especially for our Gen Z friends, 1995, the Mariners were fighting for their lives for a new stadium when they were playing at the Broken Kingdom with the tiles falling down, which to the point that stadium was actually a safety concern. And unfortunately, 2 lives were taken away when they were trying to fix the dome in 94. But they were fighting for a new stadium. And without the efforts of 95, which actually was voted down, by the way, we don't even have the opportunity to complain about a stadium. And without the efforts of 95, we may not even have the Seahawks. We may not even have any professional sports teams to even complain about. And of course, we don't have T-Mobile Park to complain about. So the way I see it, best solution, I guess, move the time to 7 o'clock when you're talking about sun glaring situations, which I do think that is a valid point. And find ways to find personnel to hit through such a difficult thing, because we can bring in all the fences we want and we can fix all these problems all we want, but then pitching will be factored against. So I think I like the pitching the way it is. I liked pitching having the advantage, because when you're at home on Game 7 of the World Series, what do you want? What's the most critical part? Is having a starting rotation and a bullpen. Offense, sure, but it's not the main reason why you would win a World Series. It's your good pitching, starting rotation, and your bullpen. That's all I got to say about this whole T-Mobile Park, bananas, whatever. Jay Trident, your turn.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty much with you on it. You know, at the end of the day, talent wins. And if you got better talent, you'll win more games. I don't know. We kind of talked before, like, do the Dodgers get concerns about what their ballpark is? No, they just beat you. You know, I obviously football doesn't have like park factors and stuff, but like, you know, when the Seahawks were winning, they kicked your butt. You know, it's like good teams find a way. And this team was on a 98 win pace at home last year. So really their trouble wasn't winning at home. Their trouble was, like, you know, they lost 11 out of 12 to the Angels. You know, I don't care. The Mariners should be better than the Angels. No offense to Angels fans. I know I have some that follow me, and I love you guys, respect you. But the Angels, you should be better than the Angels in a ballpark. The Mariners should take on the Angels in Baltimore and beat them. They should take them on in T-Mobile and beat them. So, you know, yeah, it's a pitcher's park, no doubt about it. It's obviously you are going to hit better more than likely on the road than you will in T-Mobile. The only thing that I would really be like, ooh, with the park is if for some reason, and I don't think this is the case, but let's say the Mariners are reaching out to Bregman, Alonso, Soto, these guys, or Simeon, Seager, whoever you want to throw in there. I don't care. I'm just throwing out names. And those guys are going, nah, I'm not going to sign there because I don't like the batter sign. I don't like the park. Okay, then maybe you have something to look at if that is truly happening. Do I think it's maybe her? And here's the thing, though, with those big name free agents, those guys get big deals that they don't care. Like I joked with you, before and when we were messaging back and forth, like if the Mariners offered Juan Soto 17 years, $1 billion, he's not going to go, oh, well, that park's just not conducive to hitting. Like long-term deal guys are going to take it because they don't care if it suppresses their numbers. They've got the bag. They've got the money. Maybe it does hurt them on some short-term deals, some bounce back guys. Like, last year I liked Rhys Hoskins as a guy to sign on a 1-year deal. Ended up not really needing him, but is he going to take a 1-year deal to go to Seattle? Probably not. Ha-Seong Kim, is that the one that just signed with the Rays, right?
Yep, Ha-Seong Kim.
Yeah, is he going to go to T-Mobile to regain some offensive value? Probably not. Tampa's going to be more conducive, or the Yankees spring training facility will be more conducive to hitting than, T-Mobile. So yeah, I do think there is maybe some areas where it factors in, but then you look at how they're built, to your point about pitching. They have a great pitching staff. So they're built pretty well for the ballpark. I do think there needs to be a focus more on hitters that are a little bit more of kind of put the ball in play type guys. Kind of, I'm not talking like just, bunt, move runners over, stuff like that. Because at the end of the day, outs are outs. But like kind of more how like maybe a team like the Royals is kind of built. They're all about putting the ball in play, kind of creating chaos. Same reason I kind of liked Luis Arraez a little bit. I do think he's an overrated player by the national media, but he's a good contact guy. I like Solano, honestly. Puts the ball in play. If you can get those guys behind Julio and Robles, you can create some chaos and you can score runs. So yeah, overall, I'm just not. Good players do well. You've talked about like the pitching in T-Mobile was dreadful in the mid 2000s after the success of 2001 because they weren't good pitchers. Like, God bless them, but Gilmesh, Joel Pinheiro, Ryan Franklin weren't good. Didn't matter what ballpark they were in. Bad pitchers will get hit. Good hitters are going to find a way. Are they going to perform a little bit better on the road? For hitters, of course. But are pitchers going to perform a little bit better at home? Of course. But it all kind of balances out in the end, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Like the way I see it for T-Mobile, like again, the only thing I would maybe fix is shift the game from 640 to 710. But that's really about it. And that's really just for my own YouTube channel. Really, it's not really, it has nothing to do with even with the Mariners performance. It's more of, well, I want to be able to have some breathing room between work and the Mariners game. And yeah, sure, help the batter's eye. But at the same time, again, if you fix anything to address the Mariners offense, then that will just hurt the pitching. And another key stat is the Mariners had in 2024, they were not only the second best team in the American League at home, but they were also the fourth best team in Major League Baseball at home. So I think that stat alone proves why I think all these changes of T-Mobile Park I just don't find it necessary. Like I think more factors than T-Mobile Park, if people were to say it. And Luke Arkins was trying to say, no, I'm not trying to say that T-Mobile Park is the reason why we didn't make the playoffs. I'm just trying to make a point that the bats are just worse. And I'm like, okay, great. But we're not going to fix the problem. I know it's like a slow season. I didn't blame him for doing it, but the fact that the season's been so slow with off season, it makes us talk about stadium problems. So, but the bottom line is I keep it. I trust Edgar Martinez and Kevin Seitzer and Dan Wilson to coach their way out of it. At least in the time when Dan Wilson was managing, at least we saw some more small ball baseball, right? We saw Victor Robles randomly dropping a bunt. I loved it. Even if it didn't work, I loved the effort. And most of the time, from what I saw, it did work. So other than the Mariners should just try to find one more baseball player, or more like two hitters at this point, I would put the trust on Edgar Martinez and Kevin Seitzer to have the Mariners play through T-Mobile Park. I mean, again, they play very well at home. And I guess another thing they should do with this T-Mobile Park thing is Marine Layer came up with a really great point, is to double down on the pitchers. Make sure your starting rotation is the best it can be. Make sure the bullpen has the best personnel possible, because now I think I'm getting tired of the point where the whole Mariners are going into downtown Seattle. They see some homeless guy going, hey, you're the pitcher. I think they got to do more than that. I think they actually do got to spend a little bit more money to get some personnel. Like, I would have loved it if the Mariners got Paul Sewald, but of course, because of their very restrictive budget, of course, it's not going to happen. But I do think the Mariners really do need to at least make sure their bullpen's heavily solidified, because Matt Brash is still injured. Gregory Santos, we don't know. Jackson Kowar, we don't know. Like, the only pitchers that we see that are like good to go kind of guys is like, what is it? Taylor Saucedo, which he's still a mid-tier guy at best. Then we've got, was it Colin Snyder, who came out of nowhere kind of thing? And then Andres Munoz. But they still got to fix that
Troy
bullpen.
Taylor. Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree.
Troy Taylor.
And it's such a tough conundrum, right? Because I'm with you. I actually do think they could have. There's still some interesting bullpen pieces out there. Even like, David Robertson is still out there. He's kind of a journeyman. He's been around forever, but he's just a guy that gets the job done. Just one of those guys. And like you said, with Brash, like, excuse me, obviously the goal is April, but how those things go. Then it's like, oh, it's April 20th. He's going to start a rehab assignment. Then it's like, before he's activated, all of a sudden it's May 19th. You know what I mean? You know how those things go all the time with injuries. Munoz is a guy that, he's got a violent throwing motion that can lead to injuries. We don't really know on Santos. It does have potential to be, the bullpen could be absolutely fine. It wouldn't surprise me at all. But unfortunately, with the budget, I mean, if they would have signed, what was Sewald, $7 million, right?
He got $7 million.
I would be livid if the Mariners did that. Not because I wouldn't do it, but because you can't put your budget towards relievers, and they've signed some guys. I think Will Klein is one of the guys they got from Kansas City. He's interesting. The guy they got, the Japanese pitcher, pitched for Baltimore and Oakland, Fujinami. I'm not butchering that. I apologize. There's some upside there. Like, he throws hard. Like, there's definitely, get them in the pitching lab. These guys can work. And that's what the Mariners really should be doing with their budget. But again, I'll put that one on ownership more than Jerry and Justin for the bullpen, because I'm with you. I would like a bullpen arm, but they can't do it. You can't spend that $3-4 million on a bullpen arm, unfortunately, unless, God forbid, Munoz suffers an injury here or something and you have no choice. But it's a shame, because I really do think, like, the Royals signed Carlos Estevez yesterday. I would have been against that. Nice little veteran guy, can just kind of help bridge the gap, and to your point too, with Brash, like we said, April, then in May, and he's coming off Tommy John. Like, is he going to be the same dominant guy? You don't know. And I'm not trying to be negative. Like, this bullpen could be great, but it's just, but they can't spend it on there. You can't do it. You can't. You need offense. You know what I mean? You can't spend that money on a bullpen piece, unfortunately.
Well, I guess we're on different ends on the whole Paul Sewald thing, but hey, that's.
Oh,
I'm with
you. I would have been for the move. I'm just saying, with the Mariners' budget.
Oh, the budget, yeah, sure.
That's why I would have been livid with that. Not for Sewald. I actually would have been totally down. I do think it's a little expensive for Paul Sewald, but like, I would have loved it. I think that would have been a great signing to kind of get some positivity back with the fans a little bit, erase some of the bad blood. But just with their budget, you couldn't do it. Your off season would be done. And I like Paul Sewald, but it's not enough to move the needle where I would spend that money on him. That's what I meant to say. I'm with you in terms of the move. They can't do it
because of their ridiculous budget. And yeah, I'm still and I really wish that Ryan Bliss turned out to be a superstar. I really wish Canzone turned out to be one of the cornerstones of the outfield. Like, I remember when we were on different ends on that trade, like, I was violently against the Paul Sewald trade because they were in the middle of a contention. You like the potential of Josh Rojas and Ryan Bliss and Dom Canzone. Like, again, I really wish the trade worked. I had hopes for Canzone. I liked his beautiful swing, at least when he hits a home run, but then he also has the ugliest strikeout swing ever. And I wish Josh Rojas worked. I really had high hopes for him too. He gave me flashes of what he could do for 2024, which unfortunately didn't really work out. And then Ryan Bliss, we still don't know. But yeah, unfortunately, it's just the way it is.
The defense I will have of that trade, though, still is they were like 6 games out when they made the trade. They went on a run right after. So I think people tend to think they weren't tied for first. I'm not critical. Like, it obviously hasn't really worked out, obviously. So I can't deny that. but they were kind of out of it a little bit at the time. And I will say Seawald would have been a free agent anyways right now, probably wouldn't have been re-signed regardless. So the problem is, I think here's the issue. It's not trading Seawald, just they didn't identify the right guys. That's kind of been the problem for Jerry and Justin. Like, I've liked some of the moves. They just haven't identified the right pieces or done a good job of it. Because, you know, if Canzone turned out to be the player that we thought he could, or like I said, Book's still out on Bliss a little bit. Rojas was kind of what I expected. Good defender, okay with the bat, enough to hit righties. Like, I kind of thought he was the third player in that deal. Turns out he may have been the best in that deal.
Possibly still could be. I mean, Ryan Bliss still has that opportunity.
Yeah,
and
Bliss
now
he's fun, but he's got a lot of holes. I love Ryan. He seems like a cool guy to root for, but a lot of holes in his swing for sure.
There's a lot of holes in his defense. Isn't exactly ideal. And now I go back to real quickly the Kendall Graveman trade. Now I wonder if Jerry DiPoto was maybe trying to get like a Jeremy Pena in that deal because he was a prospect at the time, or maybe. But then Abraham Toro was the best he could get, which I didn't hate Toro. I like that he was clutch. He had some clutch moments, so I didn't necessarily hate him. I just hated the timing of the trade. The timing was very inappropriate. Now, if it was like 2019, you blew it up and you still had Kendall Graveman to trade, I was like, oh yeah, 100% do it. Let's see if it works. But that's when the Mariners accidentally became a contender, because we all know the 21 season was a complete accident of a season, and 22 might as well had. No, it wasn't an accident season. We had expectations, but 21 was pure accident.
And to your point, that Graveman trade, and I was okay with that trade too, but to your point about the timing, that was literally that they traded him the day after they had that huge comeback win against the Astros, where Dylan Moore hit that grand slam off Brooks Raley, and then I think he threw it the next hitter, and the benches cleared. You probably had the most emotionally uplifting win of the season, and then you traded away a guy that was very popular in that clubhouse. So, you know, it was just, you know, and I get it. Jerry probably be, if he was on the show, he'd probably go, listen, timing can be everything, but you know, that was our chance to make that move. And Toro was actually pretty good, to your point, in 21. Actually kind of filled that second base hole. And they did. The other thing they didn't do after the Seawald trade, one thing they did nice after the Graveman trade, they filled out that bullpen. They went and got Joe Smith in that trade, who was actually pretty good, and Diego Castillo. One of my frustrations after the Seawald trade, while I did like it, I thought they should have backfilled the bullpen a little bit, and made another trade for a reliever. You know what I mean? In kind of that same vein, to your point, where they lost, that guy. So they just kind of seem to miss little things in here and there. And it's one of the reasons why, Jerry isn't the most popular in the clubhouse sometimes, for sure. So.
Yeah, Jerry DiPoto. It's okay. He's just giving 54% of the effort, and he's just trying to do us a favor. He's really giving that 54% effort. So inspiring. But that's going to end it with the whole T-Mobile thing. We just went from T-Mobile all the way to bullpen pitchers. But now we've got a game to play, and I think this is going to be a really fun game. I just happened to find it I think it was on Facebook or Twitter. But when I found it, I was like, dude, we got to play this game. So it is called the Build the Rotations 90s edition, because I think we are more connected to the 90s than we were in the 2000s and 2010s, although I kind of grew up in 2000s. But 90s, I still remember these 90s pitchers. So it says build the rotation. I'll show the picture. Here it is. And maybe I should just get rid of my thing, my SeatGeek thing. I assume that people have used my promo code by now anyway. I'll just do that. So here it is. Build the rotation of the 90s. And if you can't see the screen, let me know, Jay Trident Podcast.
Yeah, can you make it bigger? Sorry.
I think that's... Let me try. No, that's the best I can do. So
okay.
Let me text. I go through the text messages unless you want me to just resend it. Yep.
No, I'll find it.
So pick 5 starting rotation pitchers with the budget, and I guess I'll go first because I have the access already. I have it pretty much right in my face.
What is the budget?
Budget is $15. I think it was. Yeah, it was $15 for sure.
Okay.
And you can only pick 2 of the $5 guys. Obviously, I mean, you're not going to
Yeah.
blow your budget. Now we're playing the John Stanton
That's
game
right.
of the 90s. I think it's fitting anyway. But yeah, my first pitcher, obviously, it's going to be Randy Johnson because it's Randy freaking Johnson. Like, I mean, Pedro. I mean, I like Pedro, but he didn't really have his most clutch moments in the playoffs. Like 2003 ALCS against the Yankees kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. Greg Maddux, yeah, he won a World Series, and yes, Johnson only won one World Series, but with the $5, I'd rather just give it to Johnson. He's got the flamethrower of an arm. I mean, it's Randy freaking Johnson. Like, that's who I'm going to give it to. And now, just for moving budgets around, because I'm not doing this all in order, but I'll give the next one to Oral Hershiser. He was the Dodgers star of the late 80s. He was the MVP of 1988 World Series, and he was great for those Cleveland years. Now I have $8 left. And also Hershiser was the killer against the Mariners in the 1995 ALCS. So that's what I'll do. And then out of the $1 guys, it's going to be a tough one because David Wells, I don't really have much of a connection with him. This is all just biases. He did win a World Series with the Yankees, though. Al Leiter, I mean, his 2000 performance sticks out where he tried, but then he got beat up. But I'm looking at Jamie Moyer and Jeff Fassero. Now, Jeff Fassero only had literally only had one playoff start, and that was the one that we all talked about in 97, retired 18 in a row. And then there's Jamie Moyer. It's a tough one. I can't really choose. So I think I'm going to look at the other guys. There's David Cohn, Andy Pettitte, Mike Mussina, Chuck Finley. Wonder how much it would affect if I did Curt Schilling. Then I would have only $4 left. You know what? I'm going to go with Curt Schilling. Him and Randy Johnson got the co-MVPs, and the Mariners almost traded for him. They could have, actually. I don't know if they almost did, but they traded for Terry Mulholland because they didn't want to pay for Curt Schilling back in that 96 season when they were loading up on their starters. And if you watch, you got to love these guys. That's the only reason why you know the name of Terry Mulholland. Now I have $4 left. So I've spent it on Randy Johnson, Oral Hershiser, Curt Schilling, and for who am I going to pick? It gets even harder. I'll pick David Cohn as my $3 guy, as my fourth starter, because he was a Yankee. He took the Yankees into several World Series. He was a part of most of them, if not all of them. So I'll put David Cohn in there. And then the $1, I'll pick Jamie Moyer. Jamie Moyer, his 2001 performance, he had the longevity. He was a great pitcher in that Mariners rotation. So, and yeah, I mean, my honorable mention would be Jeff Fassero with that budget that I have. So I have Randy Johnson, Oral Hershiser, Curt Schilling, David Cohn, and Jamie Moyer.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, I just did mine. I kind of did it the same way. I've got one pitcher from each tier, actually, the way it worked out. I'm going to go with Greg Maddux. Just such an aesthetically pleasing pitcher to watch. I think Randy and Pedro may have had more like dominance at their peak, but you cannot go wrong with Maddux, and I'll take Maddux at the top. I went with John Smoltz as my number 2, so I got that Braves rotation, 1 and 2. Schilling would have been Schilling or Smoltz. Kevin Brown was another one really good peak, but I just don't know about the longevity. And I think Smoltz a little more dominant than Glavine, although I do have a lefty in my rotation. So I also got the Moose, Mike Mussina, probably one of the more underrated pitchers of our generation. I think just always got the job done in Baltimore, New York, wherever it was. I mean, if I've got Maddux and Smoltz, then I'm giving the Moose game 3. You got to feel pretty good. I'm with you. I went with Oral Hershiser as well. Just getting down there seems like the best of that kind of $2 group. I was going to go with whichever one you decided to go with. Since you went with Jamie, I did go with David Wells. I went with Boomer. And you had gone with someone else. I would have taken Jamie sentimentally. But I think Wells might have actually been like the best of that group, just in terms of stuff. overall. He was always kind of hit or miss. He'd have some years where the guy was like a Cy Young contender. There's other days where you weren't sure if he just chugged a 12-pack before going on the mound. And we need a little of that in my rotation there. So Boomer will bring us home at the back end. So I don't think you could go wrong with any of the guys in this group, though. You're going to have a solid rotation.
I really wanted to pick Jeff Facero, but then it would have 100% showed my biases because Jeff Facero was one of my favorites of the 90s.
You know what, though? You could have done it because that rotation is loaded enough that, you know, you're a little biased. And it gives you a lefty at the back end of that rotation. So nothing wrong with any of those guys there.
Not at all. And it looks like we have reached its end. We talked about Jorge Polanco. We talked about some spring ball invitees. We talked about the T-Mobile Park situation where we're basically saying, you know what? Nah, keep it the way it is. Fourth best team in baseball at home. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And we can all agree that if the Mariners were to suck this season, it's not going to be because T-Mobile Park's the reason. It's going to be like 49 other reasons why rather than T-Mobile Park. But I can't, at this point, after reading these articles, I mean, what else was there to talk about the Mariners? Like, there was nothing to talk about. So someone just had to roll out the T-Mobile Park thing. So it's just a sentiment of that it's just a slow offseason, at least until Jorge Polanco did something. He rejoined the team. And then we talked about this whole pitchers budgeting thing, playing the John Stanton pitchers game. Maybe we should do that like every show. Like, you have $15. Now build your best Mariners something. Maybe I should find something like that. I would make one, but that's kind of hard to make because Ichiro Griffey's gonna be like number 5, like $5, and then where are you gonna put like Richie Sexton? Where is it gonna be a $1 tier or a $2 tier? I mean, I wonder if there's anyone out there in the community that can make one. I wonder if like Couch GM makes one or if Mojo would make one. I don't know. Something to talk about. I guess maybe I'll hit him a DM. And now, before we go, another special announcement, and we talked about this already, but Jay Trident Podcast is officially joined my fantasy baseball league. It's now a league of 12, and my team name, and I am the defending champion, by the way, but I know it's not going to be much to brag about. Like, the asterisk already is, there was only 8 teams in that entire league, and now that we have 12, and it could be a very tough league, and I did the mock draft, it was brutal. Like, I couldn't get, like, the fact that I had Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, Bryce Miller in all in one team shows that it was an 8-team league. Like, it ain't happening with a 12. Not at all. Not going to happen. But my team name is In John Stanton We Trust. Definitely a parody of him. And then yours is, I think it's Joe's Finest Team.
That's what it I haven't made my team name yet. That's what it like gives you automatically. So I got to change that up and find something clever. But it'll be fun. 12-team leagues always much more fun because it tests you a little bit more. Whereas an 8-team league can still be great, but everyone's kind of loaded. This way, it makes you got to scrounge that waiver wire a little bit. So it'll be fun.
It will. Well, everyone, I do have my secret strategy with the waiver wire, and I would tell you all, but I ain't going to, because unfortunately, one player in the league knows my strategy, unfortunately. So I'm going to have to keep it a secret as the best I can, but I don't know. Everyone's going to find out. I mean, I don't know. Who knows? But that is going to do it. And Jay Trident Podcast, thank you very much for being on the show, talking about everything that we could. And everyone, go to his channel and give him that subscribe as much as I ask for a subscription. And also, this show is going to be on Spotify, YouTube podcasting, you name it. If you see it, hit the download button because that apparently helps the algorithm too. Now I'm trying to give options for hearing things only. So that way you don't, because the YouTube uses so much battery on the phone. So now I'm trying to find ways to make it easier for my viewers to access me rather than the YouTube. Because I've noticed when I play YouTube, it just burns my phone. My phone gets really hot because of the video. And yeah, it's something that I'm just trying to do. But that's going to do it. And everyone, have a good night. or good morning or good afternoon, whenever you saw this, and painfully saying, go Mariners.
Go Mariners.